Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Steve, and good afternoon. And I'll open my remarks by just saying I'm wired for sound. I know we're capturing this my remarks, so I'll have to temper a few things because you never know what's going to show up, and that's okay. I'm used to that. It's like when I deal with my close personal friend Sid Hartman, and often greet Sid. And next day I'll see in his column I'm quoted saying something that I didn't say, and I'll call him and say, Sid, what was that? He said, well, that's what you would have said if you'd have told me that. So, but it'll work. But it's good to be here today. I do a fair amount of public speaking, and I can tell you, bios are sent out, not by me, but by others, and I would have narrowed that down a little bit. You notice how there was no reference to the last 4 years, and we've lost 90 games 4 years in a row, so that must not be in the bio. But if we lose 90 again this year, I can assure you I won't be here next year. So, no, look, it's been a wonderful run for me personally, professionally, to be part of an organization such as the Minnesota Twins. For a kid who grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, really with a great passion for sports, but knowing relatively early on in my own athletic career that I was never going to have the opportunity to play sports at a high level, to have the opportunity to work one day, let alone 25 plus years for an organization such as the Twins, is a real blessing. And every single day, that's the approach I've taken. We are particularly thrilled to be here at Rush Creek today to celebrate the North Hennepin Area Chamber. I tip my cap to the leadership, the board, and the membership for your engagement, your involvement. I think that the fact that chambers, I'm a huge fan and have been past members of the Minneapolis Chamber, and I'm very close to a variety of different organizations such as this, and I just think your involvement really pays dividends, not just for your own individual business interests, but frankly for our community, for our state, and for our region. So we appreciate that and what you do. And then secondly, and maybe today more importantly, it's a really neat deal for the Twins and myself to have an opportunity to be here on a day when you're awarding your annual scholarships. The history and the heritage of this particular scholarship program is deep, and I know that we have a number of students in the room who are really deserving and are going to be recognized today. And on behalf of the Minnesota Twins organization and millions of baseball fans across what we call Twins territory, we offer our sincere congratulations and recognition and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. We all know in this room that we eventually will be working for you, and that's just a matter of time. I know we're going to speak a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit about baseball and maybe some other principles, but then ultimately we're going to take some questions, and I'll try to be brief. Clearly, I never go anywhere without getting into some level of update on our team. I'm happy I'm here today after a victory. It's always nice, and I will tell you, we entered this season with really being in a year of transition. It's well documented. We have a new manager, Minnesota's own Paul Molitor, who's first time managing a team, but somebody who has been well known for many, many years as a baseball savant. And Paul has really been very active in our minor league system, instructing our minor league players over the course of the last decade. And when Paul was brought on and we said our goodbyes to Ron Gardenhire as our manager, which was a difficult thing based on Ron's success on the field and connection to this community, really the thing that Paul impressed upon me and others that were on the other side of the table was his passion and desire to return the Twins to prominence, not just in the American League Central, but towards competing for a world championship. That's something that our fans, frankly, expect and deserve. And I'm really convinced that Paul's the right guy at the right time in the right place, and he brings instant credibility. Now, at the end of the day, we need to get him better players. We're working on that. We were very aggressive in the offseason again, in the free agent side, and ultimately last year we had a team that offensively was pretty good, scoring the 7th most runs in baseball, but we really struggled on the mound. So ultimately, as we approached 2015, we approached it with a great sense of confidence that we will be able to take that significant step forward towards contention and ultimately positioning us for hopefully what we think will be a period of sustained success. Now, what will be the keys to that? I'd say I'd point to two or three. First and foremost, we need to be better with our starting pitching. That's the name of the game relative to what we do. Much like the Minnesota Wild's run, which has been remarkable, has been fueled by goaltending. Starting pitching is the equivalent to that in baseball. And last night when Brian Dubnyk struggled for the Wild a little bit, the game obviously got a little out of hand. When your starting pitcher struggles, particularly night after night, that does not lead to success. We need to be better on that mound. We think we will be. Certainly encouraged by Mike Pelfrey's performance last night, but whether it be Malone, we know Hughes will be strong. We think Kyle Gibson, Trevor May are two pieces for the long term. And ultimately, we're going to get Irvin Santana back the second half of the year. He's been one of the better pitchers in the American League for the past 6 or 7 years. Highly disappointed that we're dealing with a suspension with him, but ultimately we believe in him and believe he'll be successful on the mound. That's one key. The second key is ultimately going to be the evolution of our young players. There was some discussion here at our table about the Cubs, and the Chicago Cubs and the Twins are really pretty much in every ranking, 1 and 2, relative to this, the depth of our minor league system. So every successful run the Twins have ever had has been really fueled by players that we draft, that we develop, that we bring to the big leagues. We started to see some dividends of that most recently last year with Kenneth Vargas and Danny Santana really making their big league debuts to great success. I think you're going to see a lot more of that over the course of 2015. So it might be Trevor May, who's already here, and Eddie Rosario, perhaps an Alex Meyer, and ultimately, eventually, a Byron Buxton and a Miguel Sano, some of the best prospects in all of baseball. So I'm very bullish on our future as an organization, understanding that talk is cheap, but I can just tell you that we're working really, really hard every single day to do the best we can to ultimately form a team that you can be proud of. We know that the experience of coming to games has been changed dramatically over the course of the last 6, 7 years compared to the Metrodome era to today at Target Field. All of our business metrics demonstrate great satisfaction with the the Target Field game day experience. People love the ballpark. They love the celebration of baseball. They generally like it being outdoors. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we're very focused on trying to make that better. Now, you might ask what I do and what I focus on day in and day out in my job. I can tell you that I believe that truly any leader of any company, and there's leaders in this company or in this room, really at the end of the day, my primary job is to be a steward of our brand. I serve as a liaison to Major League Baseball, I serve as a liaison to our ownership, serve as a liaison to a lot of government, broadcast, corporate partners, and then certainly serve as a liaison to our fans and the community in general, i.e. being here today. But really every single day, almost all of my time is focused on what I can do from a leadership role to make sure that we're taking after our brand. So how are we building it? How are we growing it? How are we nurturing it? How are we introducing it to a new generation of fans? How are we ensuring that we're doing the right thing by community? When I think of the Twins brand, I really think of three primary pillars. One is a baseball one, and it's called winning. There's a winning tradition that has been established by the likes of a Killebrew and a Carew and an Oliva and a Herbeck and a Puckett and Gaetti and ultimately a Mauer and a Morneau and others this decade. We expect to win, our fans expect to win, and winning baseball games is central to our brand. So when we don't win, that makes it more challenging for me in that stewardship role, right? The second thing that I think is really central to the Twins brand is family. And I use the word family very specifically, and it has multiple connotations. Certainly, I think that the Twins, as much as any team in this marketplace, are really blessed to have multiple generations who take in the Twins and consume the Twins product in many different ways over the course of a spring and summer as a family. It could be coming to games, whether it be at the old Met, the Metrodome, now Target Field, with a grandparent, with a parent, as a family. I got in the back of the old green station wagon in Bismarck, North Dakota, and made that 7.5-hour drive every year to come down to a Twins game. And despite fighting with my siblings in the car on the way down, those were always good experiences. But also the environment that we deliver day in and day out at Target Field is family friendly, which is something that I think that it cannot be taken for granted in today's world of professional sports. It also needs to be priced affordably, which also speaks to family. And then I'd say the last thing, which is really not necessarily a piece that I would say is as high a priority for some organizations in sports, is the word community. We've been blessed over time to have great ownership in terms of the Griffith family, and then over the last 25, 30 years with the Polad family, that really have made community and philanthropy a central part of what the Twins' mission is. And I can tell you that we work really, really hard to ensure that we're doing our part to make our community a better place to live, and ultimately to provide our assets to the community, whether it be tickets, whether it be giving, whether it be appearances, etc. But then beyond that, I will tell you that we've been very, very blessed as an organization to have leaders, particularly on our baseball side, who have ensured that when we assess players, that we do more than just check the box around character and makeup. And I really will tell you that in my Twins career of 26 years, there's a lot of things I'm proud of, and certainly there's a lot of success that has been on the field, and of course Target Field, the All-Star Game, you name it. But I think I'm probably just as proud of the overall body of work relative to what a lot of our players have done in the community and how they represent the state of Minnesota in the community. And when I go to bed at night, generally speaking, I worry about who our starting pitcher is the next day and whether we're going to have success in Seattle tomorrow night. I don't necessarily lose sleep about where our players are at. And that's something I knock on wood because they're human, but we've had a pretty good run over a long period of time that I'd put up against any team in professional sports. And I tip my cap to our players. We don't take that for granted, and I think our fans appreciate that as well. Now lastly, for the students in this room, and we want to recognize them, I will tell you that any level of success that I've had in my career, I think you can point to a few different things, and I would say they fall under the general category of fundamentals. And they would be probably as follows, in no particular order. When I showed up at the Twins as an intern in 1990, I vowed to myself that not a single person in that organization, and mainly not a single fellow intern, was going to outwork me, that I was going to outwork everybody that I possibly could. I didn't necessarily know what that meant, and I was really cheap labor at the time, so the Twins got the benefit of that. But I will tell you that it was just ingrained in me, and I give my parents credit for that in terms of understanding that. So work ethic on some level matters greatly, and I think it probably matters more than any other thing. The second thing is I would say is communication. I was blessed through the University of North Dakota to really hone some writing skills, and I learned to be an effective communicator, and I really focused on writing skills, not to mention the ability to sell yourself with verbal communications. When I say writing skills, and I talk to a lot of students, that means not 140 characters or less. That means being able to write an effective email or letter, God forbid, or memo or report or presentation with proper grammar and pronunciation and all of punctuation, all of those things. So communication skills today, and I can tell you as a father of 3 teenage boys, they could give this speech. They're sick of hearing it from me. But to me, it's absolutely fundamental. And then I'd say the third thing is ultimately understanding that there will be sacrifices that you'll need to make along the way. And we all, as adults and humans, have choices. But over the course of my career, there are things that have transpired that I couldn't have predicted as a 21, 22-year-old. Ended up probably, in terms of friendships, in terms of time away from family, in terms of time away from things because of a choice you make relative to go down towards career. And I think what I'm really trying to get at is go into it eyes wide open around developing some skills that allow you to balance family with career work, and ultimately find an organization that champions that. Because I can tell you, at the world of the Twins and the world of Major League Baseball, it's changed dramatically in 25 years. We're a much more family balanced, focused organization today than the old school way back in the mid-'80s, or God forbid back in the 60s or the 70s. And I will just tell you that that's an important piece. And I share that because over the course of time, I ended up losing a marriage, probably ultimately because of my commitment to work. So that's not something I'm proud of, but I can't change it today, and I can learn from it. And as we go forward in life, you have to learn from your mistakes and ultimately understand that you can have both. You can have a very successful career, but you also can have that family balance. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that really matters much more than that family. So keep that in mind as well. I'd love to take questions on any front, baseball-wise. Anybody see Torrey Hunter try to steal home last night? You don't see that happen very often. Think about it. I think Rod Carew did that 5 or 6 times in a season in 1969. So, any questions from this group? Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if you could speak to what it's like about being the head of an organization, a very broad and big organization, where the public sees success or failure based purely on one part of that organization. How do you deal with issues that arise from
Well, I think, can everybody hear the question? You want me to repeat it? The question is how you deal with kind of the reality that we're a high-profile organization, and when things aren't going well on the field, that's all they see, and they don't really recognize all these other things. I think in my world, I've learned to just accept that. I don't think you can have it both ways, because remember, because it's so high-profile, and when things are going really, really well, ultimately, you as an organization, you as an individual, often get the benefit of that. And again, the metric that fans care about more than anything else is winning games. For most people in society, they view sports as a distraction from their own individual life and ultimately the things that maybe are bothering them in their life, or they want to get away. They want to cheer for their team, right? That's an important piece. Well, cheering it makes a big difference when you've got a winning team on the field. So the world has changed dramatically. So some of the things that we deal with today that are a little different. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have been dealing more with CBS and ABC. Now we deal with TMZ and Deadspin. I mean, but that's just the reality. There was no social media. There wasn't Twitter, where everybody has an account and, their ability to put anything they want out there with zero filter, and immediately. And then I'd say that just the evolution of the media, ESPN and talk radio, this 24/7 cycle. So things have a way of again, getting out of control. But when you play well, it feeds that, and you get the benefit of it. When you don't, it also then becomes an even greater challenge. So part of my background as a public relations communications student has served me well in a leadership role to understand that and to figure out ways to use it to your advantage and to figure out ways to mitigate damage when things aren't going well. But it's not going to change anytime soon. Yes?
Speaking to your comments on communication, when I was coming out of high school, headed into college, I remember feeling intimidated by folks of a higher stature, maybe professors or business leaders. I wonder if you could comment on communicating with people at that next level and treating them like people talking to people as opposed to titles talking.
Yeah, well, again, that's a difficult thing, and I was blessed with probably some level of inner confidence in terms of being able to get up in front of a room of people at a pretty early age and make a presentation. And that's a really difficult thing for a lot of people that I know and love. So I don't take it for granted. But that said, I do think there's some skills you can learn as an individual, even in one-on-one communication, to be more effective. And you have to work on it. You have to put time in. I spent a lot of time during my education period in the early stages of my career is really trying to watch people who did it effectively and learn be a student of the game, so to speak. But it's like anything else. If you want to get better, you're going to have to invest some time and energy and be willing to make some mistakes and put yourself out there, which is probably the biggest problem for all of us in this world, including myself, that have a tendency to be really insecure at times. Yes?
You had mentioned that people use sports as a way to get away.
Yeah.
What does David St. Peter use to get away?
Sports.
Which one?
Different sports. I do a couple things. The sport that I'm the most passionate follower of is college hockey, because I went to school at the University of North Dakota, and I love the University of North Dakota Minnesota rivalry, and generally speaking, I hate the Gophers, but that's a different story. That's passionate. I've spent a lot of time historically coaching my youngsters, particularly around baseball, which was a lot of fun. I'm a big movie guy, things like that. But it's a lot of sports, and I love the Wild. I go to a lot of. I'm a Packers fan in football. I apologize. So I find myself really engaged in sports like a lot of other people. I wouldn't say I do that a lot with baseball. Sometimes I get enough baseball from time to time, and it's frankly good for me to get a little bit away from it. Yeah, in the back there.
Have you had anyone in the organization that has mentored you or coached you in your career?
Thank you for that question. I was very blessed early on in my Twins career to work, to be in a position where I could frankly work relatively closely with Carl Polat, who was an absolute genuine man and a master business person, negotiator, strategist, really gifted. Didn't get to where he was because he didn't earn it. And secondly, Jerry Bell, who was my predecessor as the president of the Twins, spent the better part of almost a decade with Jerry at the legislature trying to figure out this whole ballpark issue, and really learned the value of relationships and the value of class and the value of being a statesman, so to speak, which is how I would describe Jerry. There aren't enough statesmen at the Capitol in general, but Jerry fit right in over there and eventually was a big part of why we got that done. And then the third one I'd name might surprise you a little bit, but I list him as a mentor because I learned a lot as a young 22-year-old intern at the Twins. The guy that scared me the most, and I had to work with him, was Tom Kelly, our manager at the time. And Tom taught me the importance of being organized, about being on time, about making your words matter, and ultimately about the organization, that it comes first, and that we all have a role to play. And to this day, Tom's a very cherished man for me. He's different today. He's chatty Cathy now that he doesn't manage anymore. But at the time, he was all business. And what was funny about Tom is, if we'd won 10 games in a row, Tom was in his worst mood. If we'd lost 10 games in a row, Tom was in his best mood. And he subscribed every single day to this even keel. And he wanted to keep everybody on their toes around even keel. Never get too cushy, never get too down. Yes?
In what ways do you work with the other presidents of the professional sports teams in the Twin Cities to build professional sports brand in this area and the whole image of what team?
Well, I appreciate that question as well. We have great relationships with all the leaders of the professional sports organizations. I can't say that we're formally structured as much as I wish we were. I think we should do probably more in that area. But we compare notes a lot on different things and certainly work hard. For example, when the Super Bowl bid went out, all of the teams in town and all of the venues in town kind of come together around those things. The same with the All-Star game. But I think there is more we can be doing. I don't want, frankly, scheduling is still a frustration for a lot of fans, and I think rightfully so. We should be able to do a better job of avoiding conflicts, particularly, I would say, the winter sports, wild wolves, and sometimes even, us in the university, et cetera, in the fall. But there are notes that you compare, and certainly we all understand we're in the business. I'm often asked if it's too saturated. It is. We probably, frankly have, as many professional franchises in a major university as any market this size in the country. But I think if you're a fan, it accrues to the benefit of the fans because it really puts incredible pressure on the teams to deliver a very compelling product in a great venue with superior customer service. And if I'm a fan, those are all wins. And if you don't deliver those things, you're going to probably pay the price around your attendance and around your other metrics. And frankly, right now, the Twins we need to earn our way back. And the best way for us to do that, really probably the only way for us to do that, is to win baseball games on the field. When we do that, fans will be back in a big number. Yes?
First, I'll give you a heads up. I just tweeted out that you said you hated the Gophers.
Appreciate that. Trust me, most of those people know it.
The good news is I only have
I only hate the Gophers and Gopher hockey. I wanted to clarify that. Gopher hockey. And I can assure you the Gopher hockey people know it because I'll just give you my Twitter feed. They don't say very nice things to me.
my question is around
Joe Mauer and his contract, and there's a lot of up and down news on whether that was worth it. Would the Twins organization do a contract like that again if they had to do it over?
Well, again, the answer to the question would be yes. If you went back to that time, Joe, I'd say, if you understand the timing of that contract and where we were organizationally, people have selective memories. So if you go back and look at the season Joe was coming off of at the time, winning his third AL batting title in 5 years and an MVP year, and we're moving into a new ballpark. There was a lot of speculation that had Joe not signed, that there would have been a revolt. At the time, that was the market deal for a player of Joe's stature. And I'll be honest with you, I still think Joe, people sometimes point to Joe as the reason we've struggled the last 4 years. That's nonsense. It comes down back to pitching. He did not have a great year for Joe Mauer standards in 2014. But I've told many people I expect him to be right back in the hunt for an American League batting title in 2015. He's healthy. He's got another year under his belt at first base. He's more comfortable over there. And I can tell you he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, which is good. And I think Torrey Hunter's presence in our clubhouse takes a little bit of pressure off of Joe to be that go-to guy every day. Joe's frankly a pretty quiet guy. And there's people in this room that are really, really good at what you do, but you're probably relatively shy. That's kind of Joe Mauer, and that's okay. We want to put Joe in a place to succeed. So yeah, we'd do that over again, and I'm optimistic Joe's going to be part of the solution. He's not the problem. Next question. Anything else? I bored you to death. Yes, sir.
Were you at all involved, you were talking about the other major sports, involved in the MLS discussions at all?
Well, only on the periphery. The Pohlad family is certainly part of a group that's trying to bring MLS to Minnesota with a open air facility down near Target Field. So certainly I know a lot of those people who are working every day on that and have shared some perspective, but I'm not directly involved in it day in and day out. I will say that I'm hopeful, and I think I can say this objectively, that MLS comes to Minnesota. And I'd say that for a few reasons. One is, certainly they've been saying this for a long time, but I do think soccer is really making significant inroads in this country, mainly because now we have multiple generations that have really played the game at big numbers. And I think we're starting to see those people really become fans. You see it with the advent of the Premier League and all of its focus in this country, and then of course what we have done as a country around the U.S. men's national team. And I think that's significant. The second thing I'd say is most people don't really understand and appreciate how great it is to watch a soccer game at that level in a soccer-specific facility. It's a night and day experience. I had an opportunity a year ago to go to Kansas City and see what they call Sporting Park, which is about an 18,000 seat soccer venue. And I could tell you it was an absolutely crazy, great experience. I was a convert from the second I walked in. And I think it would play really well here in Minnesota with a little bit different demographic, frankly, that's a little bit more diverse than you see with the other sports. And that's also a really cool thing. So I'm a big fan of it. I hope it works. I know that, saying that from the Twins side, that I might be competing with them on some level to sell tickets to the same fan. But I'm also realistic enough to know that it's going to come eventually. And I think the way it comes or where they play, I think that matters greatly for success. One more question? Anybody else? If not, I will say thank you for the opportunity to be here. And again, most importantly than anything else, congratulate the students on today's scholarship, and we wish you all the best and look forward to your successful careers. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.